What is going on YouTube? Gabons here and welcome to episode 27 of the Tech Pills weekly live stream. As you can probably tell, there's been a change of scenery here. I am back home in my hometown, so there's that. I announced that in the previous episode, so now that the moving is done, I am back on track and ready to stream again. I was a little bit later than I expected, so we're doing this on Saturday instead of Friday, but hopefully it's not too much of a big deal. But let's get started. So let's get started with the first news of today. A new Pine phone, with the Post-Market OS Community Edition is out with new and improved specs. So the Post-Market OS Community Edition of the Pine phone has been announced, and while initially you might think it's more of what we've seen already with a different logo on the back, there's actually quite a bit more than meets the eye. This new version of the Pine phone has a new buy option called the Convergence Pack, and it's basically a bundle that gets you the Pine phone version 1.2a, so that's not one like the previous version was 1.2. Along with the USB Type-C dongle with various useful ports, but we'll get to that later. So currently on the PinePhone version 1.2a, you can get this particular version only as part of this convergence pack for the still modest price of $199 US. The interesting part is that the 1.2a version of the PinePhone offers some better specs compared to the otherwise lackluster pre-existing 1.2 version. So the biggest differences are, well, the only ones that I have found are the 32 gigabytes of internal eMMC storage compared to the 16 gigabytes for the standard 1.2 version, and a whopping 30 gigabytes of RAM compared to the 2 gigs on the standard version. While it doesn't sound like much, particularly considering the specs that modern smartphones on the market can boast, the original specs are not impressive to begin with, so these small hardware upgrades, I think they do make the difference, at least in my opinion. But let's get back to the dongle. Honestly, it's just a run-of-the-mill USB Type-C dongle. It provides 2 USB Type-A ports, 1 HDMI out, 1 Ethernet port, and another USB Type-C female port for charging. So you can basically, the idea is, as this package, it's called the convergence pack. The idea is that you can get like a monitor, a mouse and keyboard, and just use this one cable, and even an internet connection. I mean, once there's the port is there, so there's even no reason to use Wi-Fi, and have like the charger already plugged in. So the idea is that you just basically plug in your phone and have a fully functional and working computer with a desktop Linux operating system that you can do, well, basic work on. I imagine you can like code on it and use the browser and edit documents and stuff like that. And I mean, the whole convergence idea, it's nothing new, but of course, with a full Linux operating system instead of a castrated Android OS or something like that, it's a whole different story. With Linux, I mean, most of the open source apps out there, you can use them on the PinePhone, even if it's the ARM architecture. It shouldn't matter, because everything that's open source should be able to be compiled on ARM as well. So there should be no problem there. And considering how many distros are coming out with support for the ARM architecture, I mean, this is just getting better and better. The distributions that I wanted to mention in particular are like that have ARM support. Of course, Debian has like support for most architectures out there. UBports, Ubuntu Touch, so that's another one. And Manjaro has an ARM version. I'm not sure if they have one that works on the PinePhone yet, but I think they will do it at some point. And the last entry in the long list is EndeavourOS. They are releasing an ARM version of their distribution based on Arch, and that's actually based on the Alarm project. So that's the Arch Linux ARM project. So that's a very nice news from the guys over at EndeavourOS. I have to check the distribution back, because it's been a while since the last time that I checked it, and I'm pretty sure that there's quite a bit more than there was when I first checked it out. So probably at some point I'll make a video. Anyway, let's get back to the PinePhone 1.2a. The fact is, like, the only problem here is, as I already mentioned, is that this 1.2a version of the PinePhone, you can only buy it as part of the convergence pack that comes with this dongle. So it has a higher price tag, but it's not all that much more. It's just like $50 more compared to the regular $150 for the standard PinePhone 1.2a. Another thing is that apparently the older versions of the PinePhone won't be able to use the dongle, or I mean, not this included dongle, nor any other similar ones, because of a major hardware flaw preventing some USB-C features like video output and power delivery from being used. And Pine64, I mean, they're trying to solve this problem because they want their users to have a fully functional phone. And I mean, it's not great that there was this hardware flaw in previous versions to begin with. So they released a video showing how to fix this issue by yourself. And while that's great of them to do something like this, I mean, I haven't seen other manufacturers do anything similar before. It still does require some fine soldering skills. So if you're comfortable with the soldering iron, maybe you can do that. But I'm still pretty confident you can find an electronics shop with people capable enough of performing such repair without much trouble. So this really goes to show how important repairability is. Such hardware flaws are not uncommon, and if you're talking about a phone, of course, that's a lot more difficult to work to repair, because it's all crammed in a smaller package. But the guys over at Pine64 are going out of their way to make it possible for, like, I don't mean your average user, but if a power user wants to open it up and fix it autonomously, they can do it. That's the whole point. Modern phones nowadays don't have this option. You cannot do anything like that on like a Samsung or a OnePlus device. Hell, even my phone, a OnePlus 5, I cannot open it up. If I wanted to, I should probably buy like the suction cups, like the suction cups that you use to lift the phone screen, and probably have to use a heat gun to dissolve some glue, because I don't even see any screw or anything to open it up. It's probably all glued together, and that's not great. That's not great. And again, huge props to Pine64 for giving the users the possibility to repair their own devices, and to to put out an actual video showing how to perform the repair. So I wish I could see more smartphone companies doing that, but I don't think that will happen anytime soon. Anyway, again, huge props to Pine64 for releasing this video, for encouraging repairability and self-repairing your own devices, and great news on this new and improved version of the PinePhone. It's getting more and more compelling to buy. Honestly, I want to buy it, but I mean, it's not, doesn't cost much, but it's basically a toy, and I don't really have $200 to spend on a toy right now. But anyway, I wish I did. But anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. Proton 5.0-10 beta brings Death Stranding to Linux. So, former PlayStation 4 exclusive Death Stranding, the latest game from Hideo Kojima, was recently ported to PC. The catch being that it's a DirectX 12 exclusive for some unknown reason. If you don't know, DirectX is the proprietary graphics API developed by Microsoft and notoriously not available on Linux, despite the fact that apparently Microsoft loves Linux. And I was being sarcastic there if you didn't catch that. Anyway, Death Stranding being DirectX 12 only didn't stop the people over at Valve and Codeweavers, the developers behind Wine, from trying to make it work on Linux anyway. And not long after the game released on Steam, they released a beta version of Proton 5.0-10, allowing the game to run. This was possible because of the VK D3D project, an open source software similar to DXVK that converts DirectX 12 calls to Vulkan. Despite the project being still in its infancy and the subsequent Proton build derived from it being still a bit rough around the edges, the game still launches and mostly works, which is an impressive feat considering that the game released on PC just on July 14th, so just 4 days ago at the time of recording this. And I mean, to wrap this up, I just want to congratulate all the awesome developers that made this possible. And while you might not care about Linux gaming, I think it's an important step forward to mass adoption of our beloved free as in freedom operating system. So, I mean, if gaming on Linux becomes more popular, of course, the overall Linux desktop usage is going to grow, and this will benefit the whole Linux ecosystem. So I think that's great. But anyway, let's move on to the next news of today. This is an app spotlight, to be honest. It's not like a proper news article. I just wanted to tell you about this nice little application called Noise Torch. So let's start with a bit of history. It just so happens that while moving back home, my microphone broke. And I mean, this stuff happens, and unfortunately, the microphone already had taken a beating in the past. So, while unfortunate, it doesn't surprise me too much, to be honest. And it's really mind-blowing that it managed to resist up to this point. Anyway, right now I'm just using a very cheap lavalier mic. I'm not sure if you can see that. My t-shirt is dark, so I don't know. Here. I'm just using this very cheap and simple lavalier mic that I bought off of Amazon. And while it sounds great when plugged into my camera, it isn't all that great when plugged into my PC. Of course, you couldn't expect very much from the sound card integrated into the motherboard, and that's just what it is. Fortunately, this gave me the possibility to try a new piece of software called Noise Torch. This is a little front end for the Pulse Audio real-time noise suppression plugin based on the RN noise library from Xiph, X-I-P-H. Never pronounced this name before, so I hope I'm pronouncing that right. So again, based on the RN noise library from Xiph. And the nice thing is that you're hearing it right now. So you're hearing what noise storage sounds like. And I mean, that's a nice demo for change for live stream. I mean, let's talk about it a little bit deeper. It's really just a very simple piece of software. It lets you choose the input device that you want to use. You start it up and it creates a virtual input device that you can use in OBS or your favorite voice chat software, whatever, and it just removes everything that's not your voice. I mean, it's really impressive that I can just clap or snap my fingers or hit the desk, and you shouldn't have been able to hear. Yeah, you shouldn't have been able to hear any of that. And unless I just talk over the noise, in which case it's picked up. I mean, it's the way it works. It's kind of like the voice activation mode in like Discord or other voice chat software that have like voice activation, and it's not all that simple. It's actually a little bit more complex. In fact, it does use a neural network of some sorts to be able to distinguish between like normal human voice, human speech, and background noises. And it's just, I mean, it's just awesome. You can't hear any of that. You can hear me clapping, but if I talk, if I speak, even softly like this, I don't even have to speak so loudly. It just picks up my voice. That's just great. And I mean, that's just an awesome piece of software. I'm really grateful that I've been able to that I had an inconvenience such as my microphones not working anymore, so that I could try this nice piece of software. And if you like do, particularly at this day and age, if you do a lot of voice conferences and voice calls or whatever, and you live like in a crowded house, like I don't know if you have roommates, or if your family is particularly loud, or if your dog likes to bark at inconvenient times, this kind of software is really well, it's really handy because it does suppress background noises completely. It just can't hear anything. It's not like a noise removal algorithm. It's actually selecting your voice. It's actually selecting human speech out of everything else that it hears. And of course, it adds a little bit of latency. They talk about 10 milliseconds of audio latency, but of course, for live streaming or for voice calls, it's not really that big of a deal. 10 milliseconds is nothing compared to like phone calls or stuff like that. So that's still pretty good. And if you want to try it out, if you want to check it out, you can find it on GitHub and try it for yourself. The link is github.com/lawl/noise storage. So let's repeat that again, github.com/lawl/noise storage. So let's move on to the next news of today. Ubuntu removes the popularity contest package. Popularity contest, or PopCon, is a Debian package that started, I think, in 1998, so it's pretty old, and it was made to send periodic anonymized reports of which packages users have installed on their systems. It's been there for ages. I mean, 98, it's a long time ago. But people recently started complaining about this package, thinking that it was spying on its users. Funnily enough, according to what Alan Pope, Mark Johnson, and Martin Wimpress recently said in the Ubuntu podcast, apparently nobody looks at the data anymore. The problem apparently mostly lies in the fact that the data collected reflects mostly the default package selection, and any other package has numbers so low that they're basically zero. This news actually made a few headlines, but I personally think that it's not all that interesting. I just wanted to report on it because I want to give you my take on it. But anyway, I just, from this news, I just want to point out that one, Canonical and other distributions have other ways, other means of tracking package installs across its user base, including, but not limited to, snaps. This is the first thing. And the second thing being, you need to understand, and with you, I mean the vocal minority that thinks that like open source projects have any interest in spying you. To my knowledge, they don't sell this information. They just use it to improve the product. But just for the sake of it, I mean, if you want to help an open source project, you have to understand that this data that's collected is actually useful to them. They need to know if users use some packages or not. One big example is the 30-bit libraries debacle that happened. I think it was around 1804 or 1810. I cannot actually remember. Maybe it was 2004. Anyway, if you don't remember the news, Ubuntu tried to remove 30-bit packages support from Ubuntu, and of course there was a huge community backlash following this news, because people need 32-bit libraries, particularly gamers that want to play Steam games. Most Steam games out there require 32-bit libraries. So of course there was a huge backlash, and I mean, if a popularity contest was actually working the way it was supposed to, or at least if the data was refined enough to distinguish between like the default package selection and what users typically install after the system is installed, they could have known that people needed these 32-bit libraries in their system. And this goes on for other applications. Maybe there's like a lost and forgotten package in the Ubuntu repos or in the Debian repos that developers or package maintainers don't care too much about. But let's say this lost and forgotten package is actually used by many people, and let's say that it actually isn't working perfectly, or it's causing some issues to users. Then they can, like from analytics of this type, they can go ahead and see this information and see that people actually need that particular package that developers have forgotten about, and they can go ahead and work on it. They can focus their work on what actually matters to the users. And this goes on for most of like the analytics that open source projects try to collect. If you open, actually quite some open source applications ask you if you want to send anonymized usage statistics, and that's actually very useful to a developer, because as a developer, if I like make an application and if I make it open source, there's a good possibility that I'm doing that to scratch my own itch. So I have a problem, I want to be able to do something in a certain way. So I being a developer, I create an application that solves this problem, and it solves it for the way that I like to have it solved. But then I go ahead and publish it under an open source or a free software license for everyone to be able to use this application, and that's actually very noble. I mean, I think it's a good idea to release software as open source. But anyway, I digress. The point being, I am creating this particular software to scratch my own itch, to do something the way I wanted to do it. But if some other people wants this same software and uses it to do something that I possibly even never thought about, why not allow them to use the software the way they want to? And with automated usage analytics, developers can know, without users having to submit bug reports or issues or anything like that, what their users are actually using these applications like. If, for example, people like to use my RSS reader feeds to subscribe to podcasts, I don't think that Feeds is a very good application to manage podcasts, mostly because it's more oriented towards like news websites and text content. So there's that. Some people actually also use RSS readers to subscribe to YouTube channels, and again, Feeds it's not very good at that, because it has JavaScript disabled by default, so you can open a YouTube page, but you won't be able to play the actual video. So being able to know these things before users actually get frustrated enough to open an issue or bug report, it has its value, particularly for bigger software like distributions. So just to summarize, if you're interested in supporting an open source project that you use, start by giving developers information on your usage. And I mean, not all software has automated analytics collection. My applications don't. One, because I'm too lazy to implement it. Two, because I don't want to have to deal with like users' data. I'm not sure if I can anonymize them effectively, or if something like I don't know, maybe some data can be de-anonymized depending on the particular setup of a particular user. So I actively don't want to do that for this reason also. And you can still help me out. I mean, I'm talking about myself because I'm a developer, but of course I'm referring to all open source projects out there. Just go ahead and send an email to the developer of your favorite application and tell them how you're using your application. Tell them your particular workflow and the quirks that you have to work out because I don't know, maybe there's something that doesn't work as you would expect it to. And you can help open source development, open source applications get better just by sending the developers tips on or suggestions or manual analytics, if you want to call them that, on how you use your application. So that's a good way to start. All of this to summarize, Popcorn is now gone from Ubuntu. From the next version onward, it won't be installed in Ubuntu. So if you're worried about being spied on, I mean, I wouldn't worry about Canonical and Ubuntu. I wouldn't worry about third-party proprietary applications more. But anyway, guys, I think this is going to wrap it up for today's episode of the TechPills Weekly live stream. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please make sure to press the thumbs up button down there. Also, remember to subscribe to my channel if you want more of this. And also remember to join the TechPills community at techpills.technology/community. You can also find these nice social icons on the left side of the screen. So go ahead and scan that with your phone and join the Telegram group, the Telegram channel, or the Discord server. You can also find my GitLab over here if you're interested in looking at my projects. Anyway, guys, this is gonna wrap it up. Thank you again very much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.